I'm guessing there could be a number of reasons for that. People are still coming on. And also, this is now our 5th session. So by the 5th session, everybody is getting fed up with IELTS. Anyhow, thank you to all of you who have managed to join us today. I'm excited to be with you and to share more about IELTS with you. I'm sure you enjoyed Armin, who was with you last week on Friday and Saturday. I think Armin had a good time together with you, and I hope it was the same for you guys. So Armin spoke about reading. We covered listening together last week, and in this remaining 4 sessions, which we have together this week from Monday through to Thursday, what we will be doing is having a look at speaking and writing. And speaking and writing are usually the more difficult skills. I was in Kazakhstan in November last year. I came there to do some speaking exams, speaking tests for the British Council in Almaty. Went to Almaty, to Astana, or Nur Sultan, as you prefer to call it. I also went up to Uralsk and to Aktabe. Had a really good time and conducted a whole lot of interviews, mainly with people in the age group of 16 through to 18. And so I'll be drawing on some of that today as well, and having a look at some of the common mistakes that are made, not just by people in Kazakhstan, but in people throughout the world who take IELTS. So hopefully we'll be able to get some really good strategies laid out, which will help you in your speaking test. So let's begin by having a look at speaking and what it entails. So the speaking test is the shortest out of the 4 skills. It only lasts for approximately 11 to 14 minutes. Now, no test lasts 11 minutes, and no test really lasts 14 minutes. They all last around 12 and a half to 13 and a half minutes. There are 3 parts to the test. All 3 parts are quite different, and it is important to understand that these 3 parts are different. And it is also important to know what is expected of you in each part. And so what we will be doing today is breaking down the test. We want to break it down. We want to break down each section. We want to break down each fragment of the test. And hopefully when you do go and take your IELTS speaking test, you will have greater confidence in taking it. So the first part of the IELTS speaking is the introduction and the interview. And this lasts from 4 to 5 minutes, usually around 4.5 minutes. And this is the easiest part of the speaking test. And there's a reason why it is easy. And basically, IELTS wants you to come in and to feel relaxed. So there aren't any hard questions at the beginning. The test, just like the listening test, builds up in difficulty. So the first questions are really basic questions about yourself. Nothing difficult about them. However, some people have this ability to make even an easy question into a difficult one. Then moving across into part 2, we begin what is called the monologue. It's basically the candidate speaking for 2 minutes. It does take 3 to 4 minutes because there is 1 minute of preparation, and also there is the examiner giving a short explanation about the task. Finally, we get into part 3, and the part 3, while similar to part 1, has a different role. The role of part 3 is a discussion. It's not an interview, and we will get into the details of what that actually means a little bit later. And that also lasts about 4 to 5 minutes. And before you know it, it's all over. So if you're prepared, if you're ready, then this 12 and a half, 13 minutes can go by very, very quickly. However, if you come in and you're not prepared, then this test could last or feel like it lasts eternity. And I have had many cringe-worthy interviews where the candidate has come in and their level is extremely low, and they've thought, I'll have a crack at this IELTS test. And they've sat there for a long, long time, not saying anything. And the test feels like it just drags on forever. Hopefully that won't be the case for anybody here. So you're sitting in front of the examiner, and what are you actually getting tested on? Now, this is really important, and I think a lot of myths about the IELTS could be busted simply by looking carefully at the criteria. And now, the band descriptors, or what you are getting tested on, is something that IELTS has made public. So if you Google IELTS speaking band descriptors, you will see the exact criteria that the examiner will be looking at in order to give you a mark. So there aren't any secrets here. IELTS has shown what you are being tested on. However, as with many things in life, people interpret things differently. And people read things, don't quite understand it, and I guess a lot of rumors are birthed from that. So let's have a look at the criteria. Before we do, let's see if you can tell me what the criteria is. And we've got the chat open. I'm looking at the chat right now. Could you tell me what are the 4 criteria that you get tested on in the IELTS speaking? Okay, so I think they've all come through, and the 4 band criteria are fluency and coherence. So these go together, fluency and coherence. I saw some people putting up coherence, other people putting up fluency. Fluency and coherence are one criteria. together. Lexical resource. I saw people put up vocabulary. More difficult term for vocabulary is lexical resource. And then we're looking at grammar range and accuracy. So there are two parts to this, not just accuracy in grammar, but also the range in grammar. As Aika said, do not tell short sentences. Short sentences can be okay if you use them once, but make sure you use a wide range of sentences. And of course, pronunciation, which was also mentioned. So these are our 4 criteria that we are being tested on. I also saw some people posting up some incorrect information. And I guess this is what we want to deal with right now. So before we look at the speaking test, before we look at how the test is structured and how you should answer the questions, it is really important to understand the mind of the examiner. What is the examiner trying to do? What is he looking at in your speech? What are some of the things that he is looking for? And what are some of the things that he is not interested in? So let's have a look at these 4 criteria in more detail. Let's begin with fluency and coherence. The whole idea of fluency is basically to be able to talk at length. So it's to be able to give a short or to give a presentation, basically as somebody put into the chat, without pauses, without breaks, to be able to speak and continue speaking. Talking without too much self-correction, which should speak for itself, and using linking devices. That's another thing that can be overdone. You don't want to overdo the speaking device, the linking devices, but there should be a range of speaking devices which you are using. So there shouldn't be this continual dependence on but there should be a range of linking devices that you should be able to use in your speech. And of course, there's another really important thing, and that's being able to be understood. So coherence is all about being able to present what you want to say in a way that other people understand. And we've been asked, what are linking devices? So linking devices, can anybody give us some examples of common linking devices that we could use in our speech? Okay, so they're all coming into the chat. Hopefully answer your question there. So basically, if we want to sum up, what is fluency and coherence all about? It's about being able to keep talking, but at the same time, being understood while we keep on talking. I want to show you a short video. In this video, we've got a native speaker. They're giving a presentation. However, I want you to pay attention to the fluency and coherence of this native speaker.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have that, and I believe that our education, like such as South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries. We want to build up our future.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
Okay, I'm not sure if you or the question. Was anybody able to catch the question which was being asked here?
Why do you think that?
So the question that's been asked is, a recent poll has found that a large proportion of Americans can't cut the US world map. And why is this so? So listen again to her response and see if you can understand what she's trying to say.
This is.
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have that, and I believe that our education, like such as South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
Okay, Saya said nonsense. Yeah, some people are saying she went off topic. So if you, to her, she's actually got quite some good fluency. She's able to keep talking for the entire time. But nobody was able to really catch the idea of what she was trying to say. Beauty before brains, in this case, it is. Unfortunately, this is how a lot of candidates question. It doesn't really make sense. And this is where there's a kind of fine line. On one hand, you are getting tested on your ability to use English. You're not getting tested on your ability to form an opinion. However, that even in this case, the speaker will be unable to score a high mark in fluency and coherence in an IELTS test through discussion if she was making, if she was forming answers of this sort. And somebody has said it's because she's blonde. It could very well be the reason. However, I don't think there are conclusive studies to that. Let's move on. At lexical resource. Vocabulary. It's not big words here and there. It's a range of vocabulary over the entire period of the test. It's about using a little bit of less common vocabulary. You want to get a high mark. For the lower level candidates, candidates from 6 and up to 6, it's about being able to use the vocabulary needed to answer the question. From candidates who are advanced 7 and above, it's about being able to show a wider range of vocabulary in their answers. And obviously, we want to avoid errors. However, it's not just any errors we are trying to avoid. Really, the errors which we are trying to avoid in the speaking test are really the errors which cause confusion. And now, if we have a look at band 7, this is taken from the band descriptors. We've got uses some less common and idiomatic vocabulary and shows some awareness of style and collocation with some inappropriate choices. Now, those inappropriate choices just means that even in a band 7, you can be making some mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. And if we have a look at that word idiomatic vocabulary, I think a little bit earlier on when I asked the question, what are the criteria? Some people were saying in the criteria we have idioms. However, idioms, it's a painful topic. Began an interview and I used to ask candidates how they feel. How are you? And simple enough question, doesn't really need much of a response. I'm okay, fine, thanks, you. However, some candidates thought, I'll answer with an idiom. And they came in and how are you? Oh, I've got butterflies in my stomach. And then bang, I got it, a 7 straight before even the test began. Unfortunately, that's not what idiomatic vocabulary is all about. Idiomatic vocabulary is far more than learning some really, really dry idioms, which if you come to the UK or to Australia or the US or any country for that matter, you will only hear old people using really dry, boring idioms which have been well used and nobody uses them anymore. But they've still made their way into ESL vocabulary books and IELTS tutors really passionate about this band 7 and about their students getting this band 7 have rammed these old and useless idioms into their students and made them to vomit them all over the examiners, thinking that they will get a 7. No, that's not what idiomatic vocabulary is all about. Language is very complex. And I have a clip which I think will be able to show you exactly how complex this vocabulary is. Also, what it will show you is collocation. And now we all know the words. Let me type it for you. Now, everybody knows the meaning of this word. I'm sorry, I might have typed it, sorry, to just the panelists. It's not the nicest word, but it is a very, very commonly used word. Now, what I would like to ask you is to see how many collocations we can use with this word. So just in case you aren't able to see the word in the chat, the word is arse, and it basically means backside. Now, somebody said that it means, Noray, you've said that it means a stupid person. That is definitely one meaning of that word. Another meaning is donkey. But another meaning is also backside. Now, what I'd like you to do is just to try and come up with some collocations with this word. Now, some might be thinking, what is a collocation? Collocation is when two words come together and maybe create a new word, maybe create a new meaning, but maybe just add extra understanding to the word. So, you know, in our chat, I'm not quite seeing too many of these collocations as I thought we might be able to see. Now, there's a reason you can't see me. So some people are saying, all right, somebody's saying that they can't see me. Let me just see if I can pin my video. I'm not sure if that helped or not. Okay, so we've got some phrases with us. I'm not really seeing too many collocations with it though. We've got a nice idiom there from Sultan, a pain in the ass. And a pain in the ass means somebody who is very annoying. Okay, well, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you a video. And this is a video of a comedian who's not a native speaker. He's from Finland. And he's going to give you a few collocations, which I'm sure might tickle you a little bit.
I think the hardest word to truly master has been the word ass. Ass. I thought it's really easy. It means a butt. But no. Like yes, sometimes it can mean a butt, but that's just the tip of the ass verb. Like there are so many meanings to the word ass. I think it's the most complicated word in English. I've been trying to write a whole dictionary about just ass. There's so many. Like for example, lazy ass. That means lazy. like my lazy ass husband. It's the same sentence without the ass. Yeah. The ass is just optional there. It's, and long ass means long. Like a long ass flight. So long flight. But if you want to make it longer, you can add ass. And my definite favorite one, a grown ass man. It turns out it means a grown man. The entire man has grown. Not only his ass. So I learned that you can just add ass to anything, and then it sounds a little bit cooler. Like anything. I just bought this blue ass shirt. Oh, thank you. That was some good ass meatballs. Anything, but you have to be careful because sometimes if you add ass to something, it can actually reverse the meaning of the original word. Like for example, bad ass. That's good. Like bad is bad, but bad ass is good. But not always. Like dumb ass is still dumb. So how can you know? You have to know specifically which ones are flipped. And then there's the concept of your ass. And your ass, that means like yourself. Like move your ass. That's like move everything. Move your ass and the rest of your body. And like everything. If you have a car, that's included in the ass. All of them, same direction, just move. So your ass means yourself plus all you have. But my ass, that means like, no. Like if I say that, wow, this car is really fast, and you say, oh, fast, my ass. So it means like, no, it's not fast. And to make it even more complicated, ass can be divided. Like if you are an ass, that means that you're being stupid. But if you're half ass, then it means that you are not concentrating properly. And if you go even smaller, if you are a piece of ass, then you are beautiful.
Okay, so the reason I showed you that video wasn't just to get a laugh. The reason of showing that video was just to show you how complicated language is and the kind of collocations. And obviously, we don't want to be shown in a formal interview using words like ass would probably not be the best idea. However, these are the type of collocations, the types of word use, idiomatic word use that would be necessary to get a 7. Obviously, you don't need to do a whole interview as comical and as fancy and full of collocations as this comedian. However, a few of these kind of collocations, a few of these more complex kind of understandings of the language is what gets you a 7. Not necessarily, and definitely not, I should say, just memorizing a whole lot of old, stagnant, totally not funny idioms. Let's move on to grammar, range, and accuracy. Now here, what we are trying to do is using a range of sentence structures, using a range of grammar tenses, and at the same time avoiding errors. Seems fairly easy. If you don't have the grammar structures, obviously you can't use them. The more complex the test gets, the more it becomes clear what somebody's level or what somebody's range of structures, well, what kind of range somebody has. However, the key thing with grammar, and I remember having finished an interview with one student and a candidate. He was a student at a school, and I let him out the door, and he was greeted by his friends, and his friend said, "Oh, how did you go?" And he said, "Совсем неплохо. Сделал всего лишь 3 ошибки." And I just kind of thought, I wish I didn't understand Russian, because his whole test was riddled with mistakes. And the fact is that's only normal. Coming into a test to speak in a language which is not your original language, obviously you're going to make mistakes. However, the errors that you want to avoid are the errors which will cause the examiner to look like this poor little girl on my slide. So if you have a look at band 5, a band 5 says they use a limited range of more complex structures, but these may cause some comprehension problems. Basically, when we talk about comprehension, it means that the examiner isn't able to quite understand what you mean because of your grammar. Band 6, again, we've got a slight reversal of the situation. So they may make frequent mistakes. So we got this candidate could be making every second sentence, could be a mistake, and that's fine. But then there's not there's not a lot of these comprehension problems. There may be one or two, but on the whole, he can be understood. And really, when you think about communication, communication is all about being understood. And in Band 7, we've got frequently produces error-free sentences. And even then, some grammatical mistakes persist. However, there are no comprehension problems. So to get to a Band 7, really, there shouldn't be any of these moments where the examiner is left thinking, what did they just say? And unfortunately, or fortunately, keeping to this comical side of language, because language use can be quite funny. There is one grammatical structure which is commonly made by people who speak Russian. And I want to have a look at that because the first time I heard it, it really made me, anyway, I'll let you have a look and you'll understand how it made me feel. So I have another video for you. This is Dima from Linga Leo, and he explains this a lot better than I could. And he's explaining it in Russian, so hopefully you'll be able to understand it. Sorry, I couldn't find anything in Kazakh for you. Maybe next time I'll get a little bit of Kazakh for all Kazakhstan nationalists as well. But yeah, unfortunately, this time it's just Dima from Russia.
В комментариях под прошлым видео про типичные ошибки, которые русские, то есть мы все, делают в английском языке, Елена Барышева и Софья Ларина написали про легендарное Feel Myself. Оно стало уже практически притчей во языцах в нашей тусовке изучающих английский язык, потому что мы все тут одна, по сути, большая компания. Каждый репетитор в каждой языковой школе, я уверен, в один прекрасный день тоже травил байку про то, как один мужик как-то раз поехал за границу. Иногда этот мужик даже лично знаком репетитору, почувствовал себя плохо, не смог прийти на встречу, решил позвонить, предупредить и сказал I feel myself bad. А на другом конце провода начался дикий ржач. А когда ученики такие, ну а нам-то когда начинает смеяться, репетитор торжественно объявляет, что feel myself в английском языке это эвфемизм для трогать себя в неположенных местах, грубо попирая таким образом нравственные основы семейной жизни. Эта байка всегда у всех вызывает неподдельный восторг и искреннее веселье, более известный в наши дни как ор выше гор. Поэтому все ее так любят, особенно репетиторы, это вообще их звездный час. И поэтому представление о том, что feel myself это обязательно плохо и неприлично, пошло в народ. Больше скажу, когда я вчера искал перевод вот этой вот песни, что я подумал, ну не может же быть эта песня тоже про вот это. Я попал на один сайт, на котором были переводы песен, и на входе сайт меня спросил, а есть ли вам 18+? И я такой, да, чтобы вы думали, перевод как раз про это. Кто-то в комментариях обязательно скажет, Дима, а что ты так удивляешься? Они там у себя на загнивающем Западе вообще весь стыд потеряли и скрепы вместе с ним. Друзья, не все так просто. Да, правильно, фразу «я плохо себя чувствую», как и многие другие фразы с русского на английский дословно переводить не надо. Просто потому, что они там у себя на загнивающем Западе про это так не говорят. Вообще возвратные местоимения себя в русском и в английском часто используются очень-очень не похоже, поэтому не переводи их просто дословно везде. Да. Чтобы по-английски сказать, как ты себя чувствуешь, после слова «чувствовать» feel, сразу говоришь хорошо или плохо, не надо никаких себя. Feel bad, feel happy, feel tired, feel excited, feel good.
Okay, so what we can see here is that I hope Dima explained it to you quite well. I feel myself good, I feel myself bad, just stop using it. If you go on YouTube, you can see Dima's full video. It goes quite long. I only took a short clip of it. However, he does explain that I feel myself can be used correctly, grammatically correctly. For example, during Adam's lecture, IELTS, or during Adam's IELTS seminar, I felt myself falling asleep. So you could use it correctly. However, there are millions of other ways of saying exactly the same idea without using I feel myself. And I would really recommend for all of you to just get rid of this from your vocabulary. Now, some people find it really hard. If you do find it hard, all you need to do is you just need to Google I feel myself in Google Pics, and just imagine yourself there, right in the middle of those pics. Enough said. And by the way, if you are under 18, please, I didn't tell you to go and Google that. If your parents are watching, I didn't tell them to Google that if they are under 18. So it is something that has made me smile during exams in Kazakhstan. And again, I'm sure that the candidate, and in communication, I know that the candidate isn't saying something wrong as such, but however, it really does break down communication. And like that little girl who we saw previously, looking totally perplexed and confused, that was an examiner who came and examined in Russia, Kazakhstan, etc. Let's move on to our last criteria, which is pronunciation. So when it comes to pronunciation, people get all sorts of ideas because they want to know, should I be doing the test in my British accent, or should I put on my American pronunciation? Which pronunciation will get me the higher mark? The reality is that you have your L1 pronunciation, and that's fine. Every country has their own particular accent, which is affected by their L1. That's totally fine. And even if you go to the UK, not every person in the UK will speak like the Queen. In actual fact, there's a wide variety of accents in the UK, and people who have lived here for substantial periods of time are able to tell where you are from by your accent in the UK. So they're able to tell which region you come from just by your accent. So everybody has a different accent, and that's totally fine. IELTS doesn't give you any higher marks if you use an accent like the Queen, and they don't take away marks if you have a horrid sounding accent, as long as L1 accent has minimal effect on intelligibility. You can still get a band 9 for pronunciation. So if it's not about accent, what is it about? There's a whole lot of things which pronunciation looks at, and seeing that that speakers of other languages come from a wide variety of backgrounds. For example, Vietnamese speakers, very difficult to understand in English, basically because a lot of the sounds in English aren't shared in their own language. I remember a Japanese girl telling us that she likes to eat lice. For anybody who knows what lice is, lice are basically little insects, or I'm not sure if you could even call them insects, that live in your hair, and they make your head itchy. Usually little kids who go to school will catch them, and then they'll pass them on to all their friends, and soon the whole grade or the whole class will be full of little kids scratching their heads. Why a Japanese girl would want to eat lice is mind-boggling, unless you know that Japanese people don't have the word R in their vocabulary, and it's very difficult for them to pronounce the word R. Accordingly, rice, a staple diet, has been changed to lice. Did it create communication problems? It creates huge communication problems. And this is one of the aspects which pronunciation takes into effect. Obviously, there are other types as well. Clothes, things that we wear. For example, I'm wearing clothes today. I'm wearing a jumper and a shirt. Well, a lot of times that's pronounced as clothes. So again, that's more of an irritating mistake, not quite about being understood, but again, it affects communication, it affects intonation, it affects other aspects of pronunciation. Just to give you a quick look at just how bad this can be, I do have one more video for you. This is taken from an Indian context, and we've got the whole vocabulary, whole alphabet mispronounced here.
A for underwear, B for vegetables, C for seashore, D for telephone, E for idiots, F for police, G for zebra, H for Australia, I for England, J for Xerox copy, K for computer, L for elephant, M for immediately, N for knicker, O for hospital, P for full stop, Q for curiosity, R for army, S for Eskimo, T for station, U for Amitabh Bachchan, V for bike, W for vomit, X for example, Y for viper, Z for Superman.
Okay, so we can see that indeed pronunciation is something that is important, and fortunately for speakers of Kazakh and Russian in Kazakhstan, usually pronunciation is not that much of an issue as it is for other people in other countries. Let's move into the test details. I hope you found it useful to think about the criteria, to think about what the examiner is looking for, some of the mistakes that do cause difficulty in being understood. Now, we're going to move into some of the details of the test, what actually is happening when you come into your interview. Even though it is only 11 to 14 minutes, there is a whole lot of protocol which should be followed. One of the things which might come as a surprise to some is that the test is recorded. If you are taking the UKVI test in order to go to the UK to study or for other purposes, there will be a video recorder as well as an audio recorder. In all IELTS tests, there will be an audio recorder, and the test has to be recorded for a number of reasons. What do you suspect would be the reasons that the test is recorded? would you like to drop your answers into the chat so we can have a look? And Zasolan said to avoid corruption. And that is definitely one of the reasons why we want the test to be recorded. For example, if Zasolan came up to me and said, Adam, I need a 9 for speaking. And I said, well, how much are you willing to offer? And he says, oh, here you go, here's a couple of hundred. And I say, great, put it in my pocket, give him the 9. And what happens? He gets a 9 for his speaking, and he gets, let's say, a 7 for listening, a 7 for reading, and a 6.5 for his writing. Obviously, the 9 stands out like a sore thumb, and what would happen is another examiner would then have to listen to it, and they would say, hey, hang on a second, this is definitely not a 7, this is definitely not a 9, it's far more akin to a 7. And so, therefore, I, as the examiner who took the bribe, would be asked a whole range of different questions as to why I gave somebody a 9 who clearly is not a 9. So it does tackle corruption. Now, another reason somebody said was because it is checked by Cambridge. Cambridge really checks these recordings. They do, however, check examiners. Another thing which is really important is that examiners do give standardized tests. So examiners are held to quite a high standard, and they have to perform to that standard. And so they record every interview in order to for them to be checked according to the standardization process. Now, some people have said, you know, the ability to listen several times. Usually, a good examiner will only, a good examiner who's had a coffee in the morning will only listen to the recording once. And will not listen to the recording, will listen to the candidate once, and they will not need to go back and re-listen. So as we mentioned previously, another thing is that sometimes there are jaggeds. It might be that the candidate performed very well in other parts of the test, didn't perform well in the listening part of the test. They would listen, get another examiner to listen again, make sure that that the test has been, that the candidate has been given the right mark. And another person here put in that the right to appeal. And that is something that the IELTS does offer you. If you feel, and I mean, you might have previously got 7s for your IELTS speaking, and then you took the test and suddenly you end up with a 5, and you think, how did I go from a band 7 in speaking to a band 5? And you feel the examiner was in a particularly bad mood, and or was a little bit drunk. The examiners are never drunk. And you feel, let's appeal this process. You can appeal, somebody else will listen from Cambridge. Cambridge assigned examiner will listen to it and then give you the mark they feel is appropriate, which sometimes can be the same mark, sometimes can even be a lower mark, or sometimes could be a higher mark. So there's no real guarantee there what will happen. However, it does give you the ability to be able to appeal your mark, which makes the test, as somebody there put it, fair. Is it something for you to worry about? No, it's there for you as a candidate, as an exam test taker. It's there for your security to make sure that everything in the test that does happen to the required standard. Now, let's have a look at the test itself. And before the test, as you come in, before the actual testing starts, there is an introduction and ID check. For the sake of this seminar, we'll call this part 0. And basically, as you sit down and take your seat, the examiner is required to check your identification, and he will also introduce himself and ask you to introduce yourself. The examiner already has your name, and he will have read your name before he asks you your name. And as one very smart candidate asked me when I said, "What is your full name, please?" He said, "You already know it. Why are you asking?" So it is protocol for the test. That's why examiners ask your name. So let's have a look at this. Basically, as you're coming into the room, you go to your seat. There's no real need to speak. As in any interview, unless the examiner prompts you, there's no need to try and make small chat. The examiner might be thinking about a whole lot of things going through his mind, maybe thinking about what task he's going to give you, etc. Speaking to him might result, especially some of the older, grumpier examiners, might just give a little bit of a gruff snarl or something of that sort. And as you think, "Oh, this guy's unfriendly." However, as in any interview, if you're not asked a question, don't come in there trying to make small talk. But every examiner is different. They come in all shapes, sizes. There's women, there's men, there's happy, there's unhappy, there's fat, there's skinny. There's some schizos out there as well. But they'll all give the same grade. Every examiner is going to give you the same grade because they all are marking according to the same criteria. Once you sit down, what the examiner is going to do is going to record the information, the date, the location. He's going to record you and your candidate number, and there's no need to get involved here. If he mispronounces your name, God forbid, said your name all over the place, that's fine. You'll have the chance to respond on the recording with your full name, exactly the way your parents gave it to you. There will be that chance. So don't worry about that. Upon finishing the recording, the examiner is going to start the test by pressing his timer. And once he presses the timer, that's where really the test starts. And these will be the questions that he will be giving to you. So depending on the time of the day, I believe right now we've got evening over there in Kazakhstan. So it would be something along the lines of, "Good evening. My name is Adam Ibrahim. Can you tell me your full name, please?" He could ask you where you are from and, "Can I see your identification, please?" So this is a part where you hand over your passport, your ID card. Let me just backtrack a little bit. When the examiner asks your full name, usually in English-speaking countries, how it works. You have a first name, for example. My name is a little bit confusing in this regard because I have two first names. However, first name Adam, that's my given name. That's the name that my parents gave me. So I would say my first name first and my last name last. So Ibrahim, that's the name I get from my grandfather. I would say Ibrahim last. That's my surname, my last name. So first name first, last name last. In many cultures, it goes the other way around. You give your family name first. That creates a bit of confusion for the examiner, for the purpose of checking. And it is an English-speaking test. So the nicest thing to do in this scenario is to say your first name first and your last name last. Where are you from? How long of an answer do you need to give for this? Very short. Where are you from? I'm from the UK. That's it. There's no need for those additional little phrases which so many candidates get taught and still manage to mess up. I remember in Uralsk, which is the west of Kazakhstan, and candidates would be saying, I'm from Uralsk, which is on the east of Kazakhstan, and you're just sitting there thinking, we haven't even started the test and you've already screwed it. Well, they haven't screwed it, but you can see there's no need for that additional information. Another thing that often happens is that, you ask, where are you from? A candidate says, I'm from Kazakhstan. Well, I've flown into Kazakhstan. You've got a Kazakhstan passport in front of you. I wouldn't have asked that question if I was expecting the answer Kazakhstan. If you're in Kazakhstan and the examiner asks you, where are you from? He's not lost. He knows where he is. Give you a city. Which city are you from? Are you from the city where the test is taking place? If the test is taking place in Almaty and the examiner asks, where are you from? You can say, I'm from Shymkent, or I'm from Kizlochda, or I'm from Almaty. Wherever you're from, give a specific city. But again, a very short answer. No need to say, I'm from Almaty, which is the second capital of, or which is the old capital of Kazakhstan, or which is the southern capital of Kazakhstan. There's no need for all of that little fancy frills. I'm going to show you a few examples of speaking candidates giving the correct answers, and you'll be able to just get a feel of how the test should take place. Then the examiner wants to check your ID. The reason this is going very fast is because it is all about just verifying that the person that's sitting in front of the examiner is the person that should be sitting in front of the examiner. The examiner doesn't want to conduct a full interview thinking that they're interviewing one candidate when it turns out not to be that candidate. Giving the right marks to the right candidate, as you can imagine, is of utmost importance. So once he checks your ID, make sure that the number matches the number that's in front of the examiner. It's a quick thank you very much, that's fine. And from there on then, he says, now I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. And so that's when part one starts. So let's have a look. I want to introduce to you today 3 candidates that we're going to be examining. And we'll be having a look at them tomorrow as well over the parts 1, 2, and 3. And we'll be having a look at what did these candidates do which was good. What did these candidates do which was detrimental to their overall result, and basically looking at them, we can hopefully mirror ourselves or have a look at what we could do, which would be better than what they have done. So let's have a look at our first candidate. And again, what we'll be looking at is basically this frame. It's an introduction and ID check. It goes very quickly. These videos are 30 seconds each. Another thing that I want you to pay attention to is how, even though every examiner is different, they're still delivering exactly the same type of test.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Phil Smith. Can you tell me your full name, please?
My name is Sausan Hassan.
Thank you. And can you tell me where you're from?
I'm from Syria.
Can I see your identification,
Yes,
please?
sure.
Thank you, that's fine. Now, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself.
Okay, so as you can see, Sausan gave her first name first, her last name last. It was very quick. The examiner asked her, "Where are you from?" "I'm from Syria." "Can I see your identification, please?" "Yes, sure." She handed it straight over to him. She had the passport on the desk in front of herself. I don't know how many times he asked for the identification, and the candidate suddenly gets all flustered, thinking, "Where is my ID? I've lost it." Starts looking in their left pocket, their right pocket, their top pocket, unable to find this ID, only to find out that it was actually in their left pocket. And about 20 seconds later, the examiner is able to check it and say that's fine. Here what we can see, it goes crisp, it goes quickly. There's nothing tricky about this part. And so this is our first candidate, which we will be examining closely in our next lesson. And we'll be looking at her. She's quite a high candidate from Syria. The next candidate which we'll be looking at will be this girl here.
My name is Katia Esseri. Can you tell me your full name, please?
My name is Kyung-ae Jo.
Thank you. Can you tell me where you're from?
I'm from South Korea.
Can I see your identification, please? Thank you. Thank you. That's fine.
Thank you.
Now, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself.
Okay, so now we've got a friend from South Korea. You can see the examiner's slightly different. Her demeanor is different. She's not quite as energetic as previous examiner. She's got a different stopwatch. However, the test goes exactly the same. There's no real difference. Actually, there's absolutely no difference in how the test is conducted. And again, we can see candidate, she's very quick to respond. There's no long, prolongated answers. Everything is crisp and clean. And our final candidate, she's slightly lower. She has a slightly lower level than these two. Let's have a look at her.
Good morning. My name is Judith Harvey. Can you tell me your full name, please?
My name is Razia Bilici.
Thank you. And can you tell me where you're from, Razia?
I'm from Turkey.
Can I see your identification, please? Fine. Now, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself.
So again, the test is crisp, clean. Now, somebody has asked the girl from South Korea. She did say she's from South Korea. The girl from Syria said she's from Syria. And this lady from Turkey has said she's from Turkey. That is because these tests are taking place in the UK. So as these tests are taking place abroad, away from these people's country, obviously it makes sense for them when they say, where are you from, to say that they're from wherever their country is. There's no need to say the city. However, if you're taking the test in Kazakhstan, and the examiner asks you where you're from, and he's in Kazakhstan, you're in Kazakhstan, it would then be more appropriate to give your city as an answer. I hope that clarified things for you, Aidana. And if you have a look, this lady here, she's got a very neat desk. She's set up everything quite neatly. Her recorder's a little bit more to the right. Again, all of this doesn't matter. It doesn't affect how the test is conducted. It's uniform in the way it is presented. Again, a friend from Turkey, she was very quick in answering. She didn't fluff around. She had her passport on the table and was able to give it to the examiner very quickly. And they were able to get through this frame in about 20 seconds. I think what we're going to do now is stop there. What we will do tomorrow is we'll have a look at parts 1, 2, and 3. And these 3 girls are the girls will be, as I've already mentioned, studying and learning about the test from them. However, I see most of us have stayed for the duration of the whole entire webinar, and I'm sure you're keen for some prizes. Now, Amin said that nobody was able to guess, nobody was able to get a prize in the last couple of contests. I'm not sure if that is correct or not. However, I hope that somebody can win the prize today. I hope I haven't made the questions too difficult. Let me just get my quiz ready. Okay. And so I think you're quite aware of our rules in getting this 5,000 tenge. So what we're looking for is we're looking for the first person to give us the correct answers in one line in the chat. Unfortunately, I've lost my chat. Okay. So the first question is the name of this Australian actor. And the actor is there in the top left corner. The second question is the name of this city. Now, the city that you see right on the seashore, beautiful city, iconic city. If you've seen it, you'll know exactly what the name of this city is. So we need the full name of this city. We need the full name of this actor. And the next question is this sport. Down on the right corner, we've got a lad kicking a ball. What is the name of this sport? And another one, what is the name of this instrument? So we've got an instrument there on the right. It's got a name. And what we want to do is we want to know the name of this instrument. Okay, so some people are already putting the answers up there, but remember, don't put up the answers until we've got the last one. Otherwise, it's not going to count. And I want you to listen, because the last question is, what animal is making this sound? All right. So there we go, Alton. We're not looking for correct spelling. We're just looking for the correct answers. All right, so the answers are pouring in. I hope Alton and admin team, you're looking carefully. I've got to give you a clue here, because I can see that most people here so far are all over the place. This is all Australian. Everything here is Australian. Ansat said, it seems to me everybody already knows all of this, but no, it's all over the place, guys. It's all over the place. Think Australian, and hopefully that will help you get the right answer. We'll give you another 2 minutes. In another 2 minutes, we'll stop the contest and I'll give you the answers. I'll play the animal for you one more time. Alton, have we got any correct answers so far?
Unfortunately not. No one.
Okay. So let's give 1 more minute, and at 41 we'll stop it, okay? Whoever wrote Kiwi needs to be shot. That's Kiwi is definitely not Australian. Come on, guys. Don't insult me. Don't insult me. Okay, I think that's our time up. Alton, did we not get anybody who won the prize?
Nope. No one could answer all of the questions. I think the last one is hard, right? They cannot Google the sound. This is the reason why they cannot find the answer.
I don't think anybody got the game either, did they?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I think everybody was able to figure out who Heath Ledger was, even despite his mask as the Joker. Our city here, was anybody able to get that city? Alton?
What city? Yes.
Did anybody get that? Okay, I think I just saw it there. Yeah, it was a Gold Coast.
Yes, there were some people.
Beautiful city in Queensland, sunny Queensland. Used to live there for many years. A really iconic city in Australia. Great place to go for holidays. The instrument, I think several people did get this. This is an Aboriginal instrument in Australia. It's called the didgeridoo. And the game that's being played there, it's not rugby, it's not American football, it's called Australian football, or more correctly, it would be called AFL, which would stand for the Australian Football League. Jump on YouTube, have a look how it's played. It's unlike any other game except for Gaelic football, which is played in Ireland. That's the closest kind of game to AFL. Have a look at it. It is an interesting game. I don't particularly like it. It's played in the southern states, in Victoria, in South Australia, in Western Australia, in North Australia. But in Queensland and New South Wales, most people prefer rugby. And we refer to this game as GayFL. Anyway, probably no need to mention that. I guess you're all wondering about the bird. So here's our bird. Oh, sorry, the animal. Yeah, it's a kookaburra. And in Queensland, in my place, in Brisbane, we used to get woken up by these birds in the morning, and the morning for them in Australia can be 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and you get woken up by this great sound. I remember the first time one of my friends from America came to Australia, and we were staying at a hotel, and he went for a walk around the hotel, and he said, "Oh, you know, I heard monkeys," and I was really puzzled. Monkeys, Australia? What's going on? There are no monkeys in Australia. And he was, no, I swear I heard these monkeys. And I was so confused. Mate, there aren't any monkeys in Australia. Australia does not have monkeys. So I'm not sure what you heard, but you didn't hear monkeys. But he said, no, Adam, look, I'm not taking the piss. I heard monkeys. Yeah, and finally it just dawned on me that, no, it's not a monkey, it's actually a bird. He didn't believe me that a bird could have made that sound. It's kookaburras. The city, Quebec is Gold Coast. Gold Coast in Queensland. Okay, I think we have a little bit of time for questions and answers. I don't think there is a huge amount of questions here at the moment. Okay, so do we have a choice to start with what we want in IELTS? No. Usually speaking tests are arranged by the centre beforehand according to the needs of the centre, not according to the needs of the candidate. So candidates are allocated a time when they can come in, and they have to come in on time. The amount of tests which are forfeited, somebody's paid $150 and they haven't come on time to their test, and therefore have had their whole test basically flushed down the toilet. So when it comes to the other parts of the test, I believe the order is listening, reading, then writing, and that order as well. There's no real choice there. So it has to, unfortunately, there's no choice in which order you take those, the skills. So what will happen if I differently understand the question but fully give an answer? I'm not quite sure what is meant by that question. But I guess if you misunderstood the question and you went ahead and gave an answer, the examiner will probably not say anything. In part 3, he might correct you, or not so much as correct you, but pull you back and restate the question. Or he might even stop you if you're giving the wrong answer and ask the question again. In part 1, you can answer the questions as you want. Remember, it's going to affect your coherence score. It's going to affect your vocabulary score. So I understand everything in English, but can't speak properly. I forget different words, etc. What can I do? Speaking is a skill. The more you practice speaking, the better you become at it. And I will be looking at that a little bit more tomorrow. Exactly what you can practice, how you can practice it, and how you can become effective in that. So we'll be looking at that a little bit more tomorrow, and hopefully be able to give you some what can I do answers. What if you don't know the answer to the topic? So I guess if that's in relation to speaking or even reading, it's not a knowledge test. You're not being tested on your knowledge. You are being tested on your ability to use language. So oftentimes in reading, if you can't understand a certain word, you can infer the meaning. And that is a skill that you should be able to use. In speaking, sometimes you can get asked quite a difficult question about a topic that you kind of don't really have any idea about. However, you can still answer stating you don't know. For example, if you get asked, sorry, I've just had my little fella come in. Sorry about that. I am doing this webinar from home, and I've got 2 little kids who have been in lockdown, and they're quite bored. But let's say you've been asked a question, for example, the coronavirus. Where do you think the coronavirus originated from? Well, to be honest, I've got no idea. where the coronavirus originated from, as I think most people are quite unaware. Even the information which is stated on media, such as news articles and various sources on YouTube, there's a lot of conflicting information about the origins of the virus. For example, I was listening to Trump speak the other day, and he was saying that the virus originated in a lab. I'm not sure if he's correct or not. I would love to know where the virus originated from, like the rest of the world, but unfortunately, I can't give you the answer to that. So I've still spoke extensively, even without actually knowing what the answer to the topic question was. And Shulpan, I hope that answers your question. Silly question, but what if we do jokes in speaking? Is that allowed? No, it is an interview. It is a formal interview. Some people come in and you know, they've been in America on work and travel, which by the way is a great program to take part in if you want to expand your English language, if you want to expand your worldview in general. It is a great place. It is a great program. They come back and, you know, they've been working in a McDonald's or something with let's say, not the most intelligent portion of America. They've picked up a lot of slang, a lot of street slang, which was used in that particular area. And they come back using this kind of slang. Examiners aren't people who work in McDonald's. They work as examiners. It's a lot more formal work. They probably won't appreciate some of the slang that is thrown around in the back streets of America. If they're British examiners, they probably won't appreciate any slang that comes from America. Britain is a lot more formal in their speech. It is a formal interview, so you do have to think about that. So I would say try to stay away from slang. Don't swear in the test. That's not really appropriate. A lot of examiners can take offense. So first part is introduction, the main part and conclusion, right? I'm sorry, I didn't get that question. There's no reference unless you're asking about the way I answered the coronavirus question. And in that, yeah, developing an argument, we want to paraphrase, we want to give our argument, then we want to develop that argument and then give a nice concluding thought. So will all the lessons pass like this? Unfortunately, we've got writing coming up. Writing is really, really exciting. I think most people, if you gave them half an hour and asked them, what do you want to do? They'd say, I want to write something. No, it's not. Writing is not the most exciting. Unfortunately, it's not the most exciting skill. Most people don't like it. That's why they're not good at it. Hopefully, we'll be able to cover some of the parts necessary in order for you to become good at it. Will speaking be in the exam after the course? Sorry, Dina, I'm not quite following that question. Okay, so I think maybe those questions are related to you, Alton. Will speaking be in the exam after the course, and can you send more tests, please? Okay. I'm going to wrap things up now and give them over to Alton.
Yes, I think that, guys, you should send such questions directly to me. I will answer them, as I always do. Yeah. Adam cannot send you tests. It is not his job. Yeah. So will speaking be in the exam after the course? Nope. you will not have speaking practice. We have already told about this. If you want speaking practice, then you can buy full course. Yeah, I think that I've answered their questions.
Okay, so let's wrap up there today. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we're looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow to continue with the speaking. And once again, thank you very much and goodbye.